We were neither saints nor knights. We were simple Israeli boys who understood that we stand now for the Jewish people.
You believed in something, you trusted in something that it must succeed. Because if you're going to fail, you don't fail yourself. You fail something much bigger than you.
Soldiers are supposed to fight, kill or be killed. And what we did as soldiers, we found dead people and we helped them to go back to life.
המלחמה באירופה הסתיימה.
המלחמה נגמרה, הייתה שמחה גדולה בקרב כל חילות הלוחמים שלחמו נגד הגרמנים, נגד הנאצים. כל החיילים ידעו שהם גמרו את המלחמה וכולם חוזרים הביתה. לנו רק המאבק, המלחמה התחילה.
הבריגדה נשלחה לטרוויזיו, עיירה איטלקית קטנה בגבול אוסטריה. במהומה ששררה באירופה, כשמיליוני פליטים נעים בדרכים, מונתה הבריגדה לכוון את עקורי המלחמה שהגיעו לאיטליה ממזרח. עד מהרה כללו אלה גם את ניצולי השואה היהודים.
The meeting with the survivors was a shock which very, very difficult to describe, because first of all, everybody got some kind of information about the fate of his family and about the story of the Holocaust.
The news went around, there were refugees there were remnants of the Holocaust. People started running looking for, maybe there'll be relatives, maybe there'll be somebody who knows something about somebody. This was a terrible thing, you know, because most of them didn't find anybody. But some of them find news. This one told, yes, I know, I come from this little place and I know this family. And after that, people started to be absent from the units. They were going to look for the families.
There were thousands that had families in Europe. So the urge to come out, search the family, find any remnants from your old little township was there.
נחושים ללמוד מה אירע, מצאו יותר ויותר חיילים בבריגדה דרכים לעקוף את הוראות הצבא הבריטי ויצאו לחפש את משפחותיהם באירופה.
I remember one evening, Brigadier Benjamin, who was the brigade commander, chatting to me in the mess over our, whatever it was, whiskey. He said, look, Benny, what we got to do? All these soldiers are taking leave, but they're not coming back. What do I do? I said, well, sir, put yourself in their places. The war's been won. Here they are doing guard duty or whatnot. All they are concerned with, and that's why really they joined up, is to see if they can find remnants of their own families in Europe.
What we found was just bits and pieces. There were no communities. There were no families. There were individuals. Out of this horror, a 6-year horror,
when I saw the skeletons and I saw the people, that's impossible to explain. How do you feel when you're coming into a place like that then? And I lost the whole family in Europe.
and we arrived at a kind of a huge square with cobblestone, you know. And there, at the edge of this square, stood a young woman, and I can still see her, you know, dressed like in Marlene Dietrich style, you know, a beret, a raincoat. And as we walked past her, in her eyes we saw a different look. So after we passed through, one of us says, "This girl, I think, is Jewish."
היא אכן הייתה יהודייה, והובילה את כיתתו של ברטוב לקבוצת ניצולים אחרים שהתקבצו יחד בבית שהופצץ.
And we enter young Palestinians, and we say Shabbat Shalom, and they are all at a shock, and we tell them that we are soldiers from Palestine, from the Jewish brigade. And this was something which I think, if I live 1,000 years, I would not be able to forget, because their reaction was as if they saw the Messiah. And they jumped. First of all, they didn't believe, then they started, really physically to touch us if we are real.
You just cannot imagine what it meant for the Jews in Europe to see the Magen David on the sleeve of the Jewish soldiers.
A rumor passed all through Europe that there are soldiers from Palestine. And if we go to them, if we reach them, or if they reach us, there is a future.
אחד מאותם ניצולים היה נער צעיר, משה בייסקי, ששוחרר ממחנה בצ'כוסלובקיה ב9 במאי 1945 בידי קצין רוסי יהודי. הניצולים פנו אליו לעזרה.
Now tell us, where should we go? And his answer I will not forget until my last day. And he said, don't go to the east because they don't like us there. But don't go to the west because they don't like us either. Now you see, the first day of liberation after 5.5 years being in ghettos and camps, and the man who liberated you, he brings you the message that you have no place to go. I've decided not to return to Poland anymore because I knew Poland was a big Jewish cemetery. And I had no hope to find anybody of my family. So we organized a group of 10 people and decided to make our way to the west.
הקבוצה הקטנה הצטרפה למה שנודע בשם הבריחה, מנוסתם של הפליטים היהודים ממרכז אירופה. לאחר שהלכה כמעט 4 שבועות בלא יעד, מצאה עצמה קבוצתו של בייסקי במחנה פליטים סמוך לגבול אוסטריה-איטליה. כאן פנה אליהם אדם במדים.
He had a Magen David on his arm, and he said shalom, and he said in Hebrew that he was in the office of the camp. Then he told us that on the other side of the border there is a Jewish-Palestinian brigade. It's the first time that we felt that there is a hope. Again, there is a hope.
In this sense, the brigade kindled the imagination of survivors, and they came running towards it from all over.
We descended from a hill, and we've noticed that there were trucks standing. And all of a sudden, a soldier came out, and we've noticed that he had an insignia with a Star of David. We cried, we screamed, we jumped, we kissed one another. Can you imagine from the ghettos and the fires to see Jewish soldiers?
Meeting like this acted as a generating power, as a kind of a huge dynamo to do more and more, because more and more you discover that you are not helping others. They are you, and you are they.
חיילי הבריגדה הקימו עד מהרה מחנות ארעיים עבור הפליטים היהודים הרבים שפנו לטלוויזיו.
The picture of seeing the remnants go through the border, collecting in these camps, treating them, dealing them, the lists of names published, that each one looks for his name, maybe you'll find his family there. This is a picture that doesn't leave you in your lifetime.
The other activities were to provide, just to provide food, to provide clothing, to provide the dwellings.
אנחנו הפכנו להם התקווה והאור, ואנחנו הפכנו להם האבא והאימא והקהילה והרב והפרנסים, ובלעדינו אני לא יודע מה היה קורה
We had a complete crisis that nothing actually exists in the world that it's worth to fight for and to live for. Now you meet suddenly with young people who weren't born heroes or who weren't born extraordinary persons, just simple people, and who go and fight for something. They believe in something. You see, this was actually all the young people who still were alive needed. We needed something to hang on.
We were neither saints nor knights. We were simple Israeli boys who understood that we stand now for the Jewish people and we have to do something about it.
למרות שהבריגדה דאגה לפליטים היהודים ככל יכולתה, היו רובם במחנות פליטים שהוקמו אחרי המלחמה. כאן, מקובצים עם כל שאר הפליטים, לא הייתה ליהודים זהות משלהם.
You know that after the war, in the DP camps, there were no Jews. That's what the British and the Americans said. They were all displaced persons, they were no Jews.
At the beginning, the Jews were not considered a group. They were Poles, Hungarians, Romanians, whatever it is, by the countries from where they came.
בנות הברית שהיו עמוסות לעייפה בפליטים הנהיגו את מדיניות ההחזרה לארץ המוצא לכל הפליטים ובכללם היהודים.
Eisenhower came out with the announcement that every refugee will be sent back to the country of his origin. And that was impossible. That was impossible.
באים הביתה, בבית אין שום דבר, אין הורים, אין אחים, אין קהילה, אין רב, אין מדריך, אין מי שיכול להגיד מה לעשות, איך להתחיל. והרבה פעמים עמד בבית שכן גוי עם סכין ביד, כי הוא רצה לרשת לקחת את הבית, את הרכוש שלו, והיו מוכרחים לעזוב. היו מחכים לפעמים יום, יומיים, אולי עוד מישהו יבוא, עוד איזה אח, אולי מישהו ניצל, אולי מישהו יודע. לא היה דואר, ולא היה טלפון, ולא היה שום תקשורת, כן? לא היה לאן ללכת.
We understood the situation. We understood that Europe, for the Jews, is finished.
ב-20 ביוני 1945 יצאה חוליית חיפוש רשמית מטעם הבריגדה בראשות סרן אהרון חוטר ישי במטרה לגלות יהודים במחנות, את מקומם ואת מספרם. במחנה הראשון יאמר המפקד לחוטר ישי שאין שם יהודים. אולם בחיפושים במחנה גילו אנשיו מאות יהודים.
I ran back to the office of the camp commander and I burst out without taking care of the difference of our names. And I thought, why did you tell me there are no Jews? He told me we are having the whole repatriation moving in a full scale. I'll have to report numbers of in, numbers of out. So how could I know that there are Jews? Here we have the names of the country. You are not a nation, and therefore you don't appear on my board.
נזעמים בשל המצב של היהודים במחנות, החלו חוטר ישי ואחרים שפעלו לטובת הפליטים לדחוק בפיקוד בנות הברית לתת ליהודים זהות משלהם, לפתור אותם מהחזרה לארצותיהם ולספק להם מחנות משלהם. אולם אף בזה לא היה די. עבור אנשי הבריגדה התשובה האמיתית היחידה לצרת היהודים באירופה הייתה ארץ ישראל.
The Americans when they went into Dachau and the British when they went into Bergen-Belsen and witnessed with their own eyes what had been done, we expected that from now on the white paper of 1939 would be cancelled, and that one way or another a Jewish Commonwealth would come into being, at least in as much as free Jewish immigration to Palestine was concerned.
אולם הספר הלבן לא בוטל, וגם לא ההסגר הבריטי שמטרתו הייתה למנוע מפליטים יהודים להגיע לארץ ישראל. אנשי הבריגדה לא הסכימו לשבת עוד באפס מעשה ולחכות שהבריטים ישנו את מדיניותם. בנצלה את התוהו ובוהו ביבשת, החלה הנהגת ההגנה בבריגדה לפעול, לעתים עצמאית ולעתים על פי פקודות מארץ ישראל.
As we did not have a formal sovereignty, country, president, government, army, the whole structure, this inspired everyone to fall into an authority which is actually undefined, but it's in the air. Mind you, let me put it straight now, we were not the only ones. I think American Jews, English Jews that were fighting, and non-Jews, they were all giving a hand, and it would have never happened without their help.
אנשי הבריגדה הבינו שהם תקוותם הטובה ביותר של היהודים המבקשים לצאת מאירופה. הם הפעילו את תוכניתם הסודית.
A kind of a freedom train formed itself, and everywhere they used the logistics of the army, the fuel, if need be, we stole whatever we could lay hand on, and the whole machinery was geared to one thing, to bring the Jews to take them south as near as possible to Palestine.
First of our tracks went through all state to the camps. I left the convoy and went into the camp and said, well, here, look here, the week's time we are going to pick up our 1,000 people from you. The reaction of the inhabitants of the camp to this yellow Magen David was extraordinary. Finally, somebody cared for them. And who cared? Jewish soldiers. For morale of those people was something extraordinary.
The only way that you could move them, the only way that you could organize them, was by utilizing, exploiting the British Army. We had no alternative. We cheated, we lied, we stole, we crooked. What didn't we do?
If you have to tell a man to do something illegal, you don't order, you tell him that this is what is required. Because in such case, every soldier will think, will consider, will weigh like a general.
You believed in something, you trusted in something that it must succeed. You can't fail. Because if you're going to fail, you don't fail yourself. You fail something much bigger than you.
We had every facility or every service of life, from the womb to the tomb. We stole blankets, beds, medicines, milk, chocolate, and we had a net over the whole of Europe, which was then about 5 million people were moving from place to place, of all nations and denominations. And we directed our streams towards Palestine.
To run an operation all through Europe, with hundreds of people out of their units with false passes. This required an organization, a system, a control that really succeeded.
It had to be done in a way that the British will not notice it, that the normal activities of the brigade will continue. And at the same time, underneath, there will be, so to speak, a second brigade doing other things. They have actually formed an imaginary formation. They called it the TTG, TTG was just, a combination of dirty words in Arabic and Yiddish combined. The original name, TTG, meant Till hast diese Geschäften. Roughly translated will be up my ass business. And all papers were found TTG.
The British, like any other bureaucracy, they love initials and they love different colors of inks. If you had to forge a document, preferably you had 3 or 4 different colors.
You should fill out the work ticket that you're going from wherever it is, Frankfurt to Rome, and you've got to give the reason for the journey. And you put down that TTG, and you sign a signature, and after that you put captain or lieutenant and all the rest of it. And you stop 20 times on the road. And the fellow asks for your work ticket, you show him the work ticket, and you've got to be very sure of yourself. You show it to him with a smile on your face as if you own the bloody world. You and Churchill are chums. And he says, TTG, what's that? You don't know what TTG? Huh! He doesn't know what TTG means. That's all you need.
We were very careful to disguise everything possible. If there was an inspection in the unit, everybody was present there. Cover up proper. If transport was involved, cover up proper. In that sense, I think we played it very well, reasonably safe, reasonably, not all the time. For the cases where we didn't play safe, we very much required God's help, and He did help.
השגחה עליונה או לא, יותר משהוטרד הפיקוד העליון הבריטי מאותן הונאות, הוא הוטרד מכך שהיו קצינים בריטים יהודים בבריגדה שהעלימו עין ואפשרו לפעילויות כאלה להימשך.
So many of my men were away that when we were inspected it was quite difficult to produce the requisite numbers. And there was one occasion when there was a man called Heller, who was a sergeant, and he had his cap on one way, like that, and he spoke to the general, and then when he went down to the cookhouse, there was him again with his hat on that side. And he said, haven't I seen you before? No, sir. You see my twin brother.
We carried out our military duties correctly. Our other duties we did as best as we can to reconcile them. I don't regret any of the things. I mean, I remember that when they gave a party for me when I was being demobilized, they said to me, David, we're sorry you're going. Your signature was so easy to copy.
כמה קצינים, כשאול רמתי, לקחו חלק פעיל במבצעים החשאיים וסיכנו את עצמם ואת הקריירה שלהם.
One day, Special Investigation Branch, a captain came to see me and told me very indignantly that they had caught 2 of our trucks with people aboard and that I was signed on the work ticket. So I said, well, yes, that's my signature, all right. And then he said, well, this is no behavior, not the kind of behavior we expect from a British officer, because I was in the Gordon Highlanders attached to the brigade. And I said, well, you should expect something like this because, my mother was murdered in the Warsaw Ghetto and nearly all my family was destroyed there. And you can't expect me to sit here with folded arms, not even to try and do something to save those who have survived.
במאמציהם להגיע לניצולים נוספים, החלו אנשי הבריגדה להסתכן יותר ויותר. אחד המבצעים הנועזים ביותר כוון ל1,000 פליטים יהודים שהיו במחנה במרכז גרץ, עיירה במרכז אוסטריה, שהייתה תחת שלטון צבאי רוסי.
I got information through our people that were walking there that the Russian army is withdrawing and the British army is coming into Austria.
כשהבחינו בהזדמנות להעביר יותר יהודים מאי פעם, הכניסו ישראל קרמי ואחרים שיירה של 30 מסעיות לגרץ לאחר שהרוסים עזבו, אך לפני בו הבריטים.
We met the first advanced troop of the British forming near the road to advance to Graz.
אנשי הבריגדה הסתירו את המשאיות ביער ויצאו העירה. לא היה זמן, והם איתרו את הפליטים וריכזו אותם במהירות.
When they were told that we were taking them out to Italy, they were shocked, absolutely.
1,000 הפליטים הובלו ליער ולתוך המשאיות החונות. שיירת הבריגדה נעה בזהירות דרומה לגבול האיטלקי. במהלך הקיץ הפרוע של שנת 1945 ניצלה הבריגדה את מעמדם המיוחד של חייליה כדי להעביר אלפי פליטים יהודים לנמלים בדרום איטליה וצרפת. שם עלו הפליטים על ספינות שעמדו לנסות לפרוץ את ההסגר הבריטי על ארץ ישראל. רובן נכשלו והופנו לאחור, או שנוסעיהן נשלחו למחנות מעצר בקפריסין. משרד המלחמה הבריטי, שחש יותר ויותר בפעילויות הבריגדה ובזלזולה ברשויות, החליט לנקוט פעולה. ב-27 ביוני 1945 הועברה הבריגדה ממיקומה האסטרטגי בגבול איטליה.
They took the Jewish brigade away from Italy mainly because of בריחה. They sent us over to the Western Front, to Netherlands, because they reasoned that from there we would not be able to be so much involved in the בריחה and in the organizing of the Jewish underground in Europe.
בינתיים תכננו מפקדי הבריגדה את הלוגיסטיקה של פעילותם החשאית ממקומם החדש בצפון.
Nothing could be done without transportation. I mean, when we had to supply these survivors with food, we needed transportation. When we moved the survivors from one place to another, or to our camps, we needed transportation.
משום שהיו רחוקים מתמיד מנתיבי הבריחה של הפליטים דרומה, היה צורך במסעיות נוספות. אברהם זילברשטיין ואנשיו הגו תוכנית.
I saw that the British were forming a new Dutch army, and they gave them the same trucks as we had. I went back to my unit and I said, we are going to steal 34 trucks. And we shall give them the same numbers as our trucks. And we shall make a separate unit. We shall have 2 units with the same numbers, with the same markings, in 2 separate places. Within 2 weeks, there was panic in Holland. 34 trucks were stolen from them. And we kept them separately. They had the same papers. Everything was correct. And the British couldn't find us. We were shifting daily our trucks to Germany on false papers. The refugees were dressed up as soldiers, and as soldiers they were coming back from the concentration camps. I had Belgian friends that gave me a farm. In that farm we reloaded our men, we changed the dress, they became civilians, and from now on, over the French border, we shifted them as workers.
הבריגדה המשיכה במבצעים כאלה במהלך הקיץ של 1945 והעבירה קבוצות פליטים יהודים בכל מקום וזמן שיכלה. אולם עשרות אלפי הפליטים שהיו פזורים במחנות באירופה היו מספר גדול מכפי יכולתה של הבריגדה. בספטמבר, לאחר לחץ גובר מצד מנהיגים יהודים, הסכימו בנות הברית להקים מחנות נפרדים לפליטים היהודים והעניקו להם מעמד של קבוצה נפרדת. דוד בן גוריון, שהגיע זה עתה לאירופה והצטרף להנהגת הבריגדה, ניצל הזדמנות שנקרתה בדרכו והעלה תוכנית חדשה ונועזת. ראשית, העברת 100,000 פליטים למחנות החדשים. אחר כך, כדי להגביר את הלחץ על בנות הברית למען מולדת יהודית, לשלוח חיילים מהבריגדה למחנות כדי להפוך את הפליטים לכל יהודי אחד הדורש כניסה לארץ ישראל.
We sent our people to the camps to organize the younger and the older to teach them Hebrew, to teach them how to use a rifle and the gun and the revolver, to Jewish history, Israeli geography, to get to know the country, to get them closer and closer to the idea of choosing Israel as the aim where he should go.
We call it indoctrinate, but tell the story. Tell the story about the Yeshuv, what there is in Israel. That there is a population here, there are towns, there are villages.
They were proud of us that we are the representative of a future Jewish state. They met us as Jews who are going to give them a real life.
When the members of the brigade came as emissaries of the Haganah to organize us into the movement, we immediately took a liking to them. And when they started singing with us, and when they started dancing with us, we felt, my God, they are different, singing the same songs. They are somehow taller than us. We straightened out and we started singing like them with more gusto, with the real Hebrew. We felt suddenly we belonged to our own people, belonged to our own kind, but with pride.
למרות תקוות הפליטים, נותרה הדלת לארץ ישראל סגורה. ההסגר הבריטי נותר בעינו. עבור מנהיגי הסוכנות היהודית זה היה הזמן להיערך לקראת הבלתי נמנע. לא תהיה מדינה יהודית אם לא יילחמו עבורה. הבריטים גם לא יכלו לעצור באדם, ולאחר כמעט שנה של ניסיונות פעלו בדרך היחידה שנותרה. באפריל 1946 הוצאה הבריגדה היהודית מאירופה.
When the order for the disbandment came, the British authorities acted very quickly, because the disbanding of the brigade was a political move, it wasn't a military move. The brigade was the force that kept the Jewish refugees then close to the idea of Zionism, and therefore they decided to disband it.
ביודעם שימיהם באירופה ספורים, הגו ראשי ההגנה בבריגדה תוכנית נועזת להותיר אחריהם יותר מ100 חיילים שימשיכו את פעילותם החשאית בקרב הפליטים היהודים. כדי להסוות הונאה זו, ובנוסף להבריח פליטים נוספים לארץ ישראל, התחלפו החיילים בניצולים שנטלו את זהותם.
Each one of us got a double, and we were sitting with the doubles for many hours to tell them about our family and the address and all the small details that they will be able to pass through a simple checking of the military police.
We had to train them to look like soldiers, to salute, to knew a few things in English. They wore British uniforms. They were looking like soldiers, like us.
חיילי הבריגדה שנותרו מאחור המשיכו את פעילותם בקרב הניצולים וחיזקו את הקשר בין חורבן העולם האירופי לבין תקווה לחיים חדשים בארץ ישראל. ביולי 1946 הפליגה הקבוצה האחרונה של חיילי הבריגדה בדרכה הביתה.
What we did in terms of presenting a new hope to the survivors was a tremendous thing. It changed, in a way, the direction of Jewish history.
We are very proud of what we did in Europe, but my main feeling is that we did too little, too late. But who could cope with such a magnitude of the Holocaust? We did our best, that's all.
Could it not have happened? It could not have happened, but it did happen, and we are here.